Just rinse these bok choy leaves off. It seems like they should be in some commercial for vegetables, doesn't it?
Guten Yardening, everybody. Now, we've only had our indoor grow set up for a little bit over a month, and we've been harvesting some microgreens along the way, but now it's time to harvest some macro greens and some reds. So tonight, I'm going to show you just what you can pull out of an indoor growing setup like ours, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. And on top of all that, well, I'm pretty hungry. So let's see what we can harvest for dinner tonight.
Check out this sea of green that just a few weeks ago we needed to transplant into here. It has spread so completely, filling every aspect of this raised bed. Now I'm going to treat most of these vegetables as though they're cut and come again vegetables. And if you're new to gardening and don't know what that is, basically for something like this Paris Island Cost lettuce, we can cut it now, we can harvest some of it now, some of these bigger outer leaves, and then we'll allow it to continue growing. We're not going to cut it all off at once and harvest it at once. So I'm going to cut some of these outer leaves off. One thing I should point out, it looks like we have grass growing in here. This is a random seed of wheatgrass that must have fallen into our raised bed. And as I come in here and start to remove some of these outer leaves, I want to show you just how large they've gotten. And this is something that you're going to see time and again with the vegetables that we're growing in here. First of all, take a look at the size of this one. Beautiful, beautiful leaf of that Paris Island Cost lettuce. Crisp. There's nothing wilted here at all. So this grow light that's all the way now about 3 feet above the raised bed is still doing plenty of work for these greens down below. And harvesting these leaves like this, cutting along the outer edges, is actually serving a couple of purposes. One, we're hungry, so it's serving the purpose of getting us fed. But two, you can see how densely, even though we transplanted and widened out the spacing in between the plants, they're still growing really densely. So we're able to thin out some of what we have growing in here, some of this lettuce, which will enable it to expand even more. And again, this is cut and come again. So this isn't going to be the only harvest. This is going to be one of many. E pluribus unum. Now, one of the things my wife and I often talk about as I get into this not so baby bok choy anymore. Look at this. Look at the size of this bok choy leaf. Incredible. One of the things we often talk about is as beautiful as this is, as this bok choy, as well, really everything we're growing in here is. We're not growing it for the looks. Granted, this is a fantastic piece of bok choy. The turgidity, it's crisp, it's solid, it's firm, it's not limp or wilted in any way. It's right there. This is exactly what you'd want to harvest, maybe even a little bit bigger than you'd expect to harvest. But we're not just harvesting it for the looks. We're going to eat this. Our 365-day challenge to grow vegetables 365 days a year is about providing for our family, just like we are here. Now, as I look closely at this, I do notice something that I want to show you. All right, I've got this bok choy leaf held up really nice and closely here. And I think if you know what you're looking for, you can probably see. We were extremely careful about not bringing any of the soil in from outside or any plants in from outside. And we still have some aphids on here. So that means we're going to have to thoroughly wash what we're harvesting here. It's not going to impact our ability to eat this, but it does mean that in a future video, we're going to have to treat these aphids. We don't want them to get out of control. I'm going to try to harvest these a little bit lower. The stem of the bok choy is absolutely fantastic. This one broke before I could get down that low, perhaps because of the size. But you can see more of these leaves on the outside. We want to harvest and allow plenty of new growth on the inside. You could, of course, harvest these as a bunch. That would be absolutely no problem at all. You can harvest them all at once, but if we can still have them grow and grow more leaves like this, that's going to be even more beneficial to us in the long term. So I'm not going to touch anything that's still this nice dark green. Instead, I'm going to focus solely on these bigger outer leaves. I just rinsed these bok choy leaves off. It seems like they should be in some commercial for vegetables, doesn't it? Look at that. I wanted to get them rinsed off right away because I don't want to run the risk of taking those aphids anywhere else or letting them spread. This purple lady bok choy has the potential to grow a lot bigger as well, but I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to harvest some of this. I think if we steam this bok choy with the other, it's going to be a great color. And it'll be interesting to see if there's any difference in the taste. I'd imagine there's a subtle difference. If you've grown either of these varieties before, we'd love to know your thoughts about the bok choy. I'm not going to harvest as much of this as I did the other. But look at the coloration of these leaves. Again, everything nice and firm. And if you look down inside, right there in the middle, you can see where that new growth is coming from. And one of the cool things about kale is they are definitely long lasting. If you watched our earlier videos, you know there's still kale out there, the kale that the rabbits didn't get at 7-8 months later. But if you harvest from the outer edges of the kale, and this is plenty mature, you can harvest at this age, you can wait longer, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to harvest just a few pieces, but you can see this is going to grow taller, and as we cut off these outer pieces, it's going to allow for even more growth inside. And you can see lots of nice, fresh, brand new kale leaves coming in here. So these are happy, healthy, and they're all a nice deep green, which is what we're really looking for. I'm going to go ahead and grab some of this young radicchio as well. This is definitely not fully mature, but you can see the same thing I was talking about earlier, these beautiful looking greens. And remember that the radicchio is a little bit more bitter. This is the chicory. It's a little bit bitter, but we can use this in combination with some of our Paris Island Cost lettuce, and that's going to create a really nice salad. So some of these vegetables are ready to be eaten fresh. Some of them we're going to steam. Well, really all of them can be eaten fresh. We're going to steam some of them as well. Nice variety here. And I know we're not going to eat all of that I'm harvesting tonight for dinner. There's no way. As much as we love greens, I'm getting quite a bit out of here. But that's okay, because the vegetables that we're harvesting tonight, as long as we keep them in the fridge and nice and dry, they'll last for a couple of days. I do want to point out, for those of you that don't have a grow tent, that it's not just about the raised bed or the grow tent. These are growing outside of both of those areas, just under a nice big light. And we've got our basil here. Look at that. It was transplanted maybe 3 or 4 days ago, already spreading out. Some more radicchio back here in grow bags, some speckled peas that we're not going to touch right now, and some more lettuce. And there's more elsewhere. Now, one of the benefits of spreading where you're growing your vegetables out just a little bit is that you can also time them a little bit better. So these are some really nice Paris Cost lettuce, some more of our kale, some more of our purple lady bok choy. These aren't ready yet, which means I've harvested over in our raised bed. So in a couple days, I'll harvest out of here. So I don't have to harvest everything at once, and I don't have to worry about everything growing up, overgrowing, or wilting, or anything like that. Now, speaking of something that's got us excited, take a look at these purple beans. Look at that. Already, well, we've got about 3 inches here, 2.5 to 3 inch bean. Now, these aren't ready yet, but there's a whole bunch of them. This is developing so nicely all along these strings, holding them up. So we've got some nice vertical growing happening here. Simple vertical growing attached again just to a string. It's pretty amazing how they can wind their way around and become a successful plant. And these beans are all the way up and down these vines. A couple more days on these. That's it. Now, as I go down below the peas here, you'll notice this is that really nice grow bag, bigger than most of the other grow bags here. But one of the things we're noticing inside, and we have lots of lettuce, spinach, and other things planted in here, but we're seeing some yellowing. And the reason we're seeing yellowing is really simple. I mean, as much light as we have going on in here, if you look at it from the top, you can see it's really dense. These peas are shading out, and this potato plant are shading out some of what's inside here. And so one of the things we've learned from this is you've got to keep it a little thinner in here in order to prevent this yellowing from happening. We don't want to waste anything, and so lesson learned. We'll thin it out a little bit here. Won't grow as much in here next time. Or, let me get this last one out here. Or when we do plant in here, we'll make sure the timing is better so that these smaller plants have a better chance of developing. Now, that being said, there's still tons and tons of beautiful greenery in here, including all that nice lettuce. I am confident you know what's underneath these beautiful greens, these edible greens. Take a look at these even more beautiful red radishes. Let's see. We're growing in, what, 2 inches of soil? Maybe 1.5 inches to 2 inches of soil. 30 days. Perfect size radishes. And they're not all that size. Take a look. Look at this one. Flawless radishes. All right, you tell me. Is it worth it? A month, just a month, in a little container that would have just gone into the trash or the recycling for these delicious, look at the color of these organic red radishes, all these perfectly edible greens on top? The answer is yes, this is so worth it. No, I don't think it would be a full harvest without some of our lush microgreens. So I'm going to pull some of these speckled peas greens, just like so, leaving them to grow even more below. And I'm going to get some of this nice greens mix that I have here. Now, after all the harvesting I did, it still looks like a massive forest in here. So it's not like I over harvested or that in the next day or two we won't be able to come back down here and harvest more. And that is what we want. We want fresh greens every day. I'm going to go ahead and prep this harvest, and I'll show you what I just pulled out of our soil. After a little bit of cleaning, everything is all set, and you can see that this isn't just a dinner's worth of vegetables that we have here. We were able to harvest so quickly. This is multiple days worth of vegetables that we can enjoy in a variety of ways. How exciting is this that we're here in the middle of January, and this is fresh from our indoor garden. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you consider growing indoors, why not start now? The value is clearly there. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.